Today I'm working on 2012 Chevy Traverse LT all-wheel drive, and the project is rear brakes. So with the wheel off, this is what we're presented with. You've got a 14 mil here and here if you want to release just the caliper itself. And back here you've got 21 mil, two 21 mil bolts, 21 mil heads on these bolts that'll let you release this whole bracket. Okay, 14s to remove this, 21s to remove this. With both of those 21 mil bolts released, you can pull this caliper bracket right off. You can try and pop these brake pads out. Just as a side note, your brake pads should not go in that tight. That's actually the reason that I'm working on this car today for a friend. The last person that worked on it for them really wedged these brake pads in here way too tight. So on the other side, they were so tight that it actually destroyed the outside pad, and they were getting all kinds of grinding and humming all the time because the pads were always squeezed against the rotor, whether you were applying the brakes or not. So yeah, they should never ever be that hard to remove. So what we're going to do next is we're going to take this bracket inside, clean up these areas here, right? Pop these clips off, clean underneath, put the clip back on, clean in these gaps here, and then we'll attach this bracket again, and we'll pick it up from there. Okay, so we can take these clips, pop them right out, and we'll clean these grooves right here with a wire brush. Little brake clean spray first. Okay, with those clips fresh and clean of any debris or dirt, now you can turn your attention to these slider pins. Okay, this is what lets the caliper slide in and out when you apply it, right? So we'll take these out, just like that. Okay, you want to pay attention to how this boot is connected. Okay, so in this case, the wider part of the boot actually goes on the bracket. So I'll place that in a way that I won't mess it up. Hit it a little brake clean. Wipe off the old grease. Okay, nice and clean. This is what I like to use for this part. It's a synthetic lube that's made just for brake parts. Okay, and I'll just put a little bit on. Okay, this little thin coating, and then I can get this boot back on. The boot I can also figure out afterwards. I can slide the pin right back in there, and that's going to let me seat that boot properly. Okay, and we got a nice, very smooth operation there. Should be very smooth. Should be very easy to move that in and out, just with fingers, just like that. Okay, do the same thing on this one. Okay, so with the bracket remounted, we're at this point now. We want to see how well these pads fit in here. Right now, the pads aren't really going in properly. Okay, but I've already cleaned these, and they're free of any material. So the problem that I run into sometimes is that you have to take a grinder and slightly trim these pads. Okay, so that's what we're going to do now. I'm going to basically go take my angle grinder with a grinding or cutting disc on it. I'm just going to shave these ears just ever so slightly until this slides in with just a little bit of drag, and I'll show you what that looks like. So now those ears actually trimmed, so they'll fit in here neatly. Took a little bit off each of the three sides actually. Those just take a light finger pressure to insert them or remove them, like that. Okay? I'll apply a touch of this at the top and the bottom here. I'll repeat for the rear pad. Now this piston here has already been pushed back in, but I'll show you the tool that I use for that. Depending on the vehicle, you need to have that pad here. Depending on the vehicle, you got to put the old pad back here to press against the piston, but this piston matches that tool pretty well. That's how you would retract the piston. So now with just a little bit of grease at those contact points, and the same on the rear pad. Piston is retracted. We can reinstall the caliper over these pads. So then you just have to push in on these a little bit. Now you'll be able to reinstall those 14mm bolts, tighten them down, and that's the project. So then once you're done with that, when you first start the car, you need to make sure that you pump the brakes a few times, because you just press that brake piston all the way in on both sides. I'm doing both sides here. And you want to make sure that you get that piston to come back out and press the brake pads so that they're touching the rotor. If you don't pump the brake pedal first, you're going to find that you have very weak pressure or no pressure when you first drive. So be very careful. Make sure you pump the brakes before you actually drive anywhere after doing a project like this. Thanks very much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe if you're interested. Thank you.